All right. Welcome everyone to the very first study sessions. With this series, the goal is to read through many of the teachings that we have collected in the International Mystic Knowledge Center Library, a library which can be accessed on our website, where you can download various metaphysical and mystic texts and treatises to help you in your study and in your spiritual development. In this series, in the study sessions, we will be reading through selected texts and taking some notes, making some highlights, taking down some bullet points, and maybe some light discussion as well. And then we'll take those questions and comments that we've collected from the reading into the Sunday open discussions, where you can pose those questions to Nehemiah and hopefully invoke further discussion and get some answers to those questions. To kick off this series, I thought it would be great to start with the ancient language of the soul, the mystic knowledge of mantra, which is the book written by our teacher, Mr. Nehemiah Davis. It's a bit of an intense read, but I feel it would be a great place for us to start, as we can take all of our questions to the author himself and hopefully invoke much deeper conversation into the topic of mantra. Now, this text is available on Amazon, and you can also get it from the publisher. I believe it's Iblis Publishing. The ebook version is a little different from the actual print, in that I saw some comments, and as I was going through the ebook as well, some of the charts and diagrams did not transpose properly. So when we get to those chapters and to those sections, I would jump to the diagrams that they currently have, that can either substitute for the diagrams in the book, or I'll actually recreate the diagrams and charts in the book so that we can look at them. And if you do have the electronic version of the book and you want those updated diagrams, you can send me an email and I will be glad to forward those to you. But it also gives you the opportunity to incorporate some other diagrams, charts, illustrations that were not included in the book and add that to our study of the text. So hopefully with this session, whether you're watching it live or any other time at a later date, it'll allow you to take a deeper dive into these teachings to further enrich ourselves in developing and practicing both Nani, Raja, and Karma Yoga. Also, as we ingest these wisdoms and these teachings from the ancient masters and from other teachers throughout history, we will be able to develop a very important skill of discrimination, to be able to discriminate right teaching from wrong teaching, and thereby allow us to properly chart our course and set our sail to reach the destination of spiritual enlightenment and growth and development. All right, so with that, once again, welcome everyone. This is our very first study session. And please forgive any kinks or mishaps that happen along the way. This is my first time using the Kindle app. As you know, I am very much accustomed to just using PDFs and reading through PDFs, highlighting and bullet pointing to that. But as we do not have a PDF version of The Ancient Language of the Soul, we're going to use the Kindle app this time, and hopefully everything will work out well. Also, if you have the text, feel free to read along. And also make your own highlights and bullet points and your own notes, so that again, we come together on Sunday, we can compare notes and ask questions to the author himself. So before I start out, were there any questions or comments? Did everyone able to purchase the text, or at least know where to go to get a copy of the text? Let me put up the mysticknowledge.org website really quick. Oh, thank you very much, Sheena. I see your thumbs up there. Swap to the website. So here is the mystickknowledge.org current website. This is being worked on and updated as we speak. But at present, this is the home page. If you go to new book sale link, you'll find more information here. And you can click on the title, the image, or even on the order today link. It'll take you directly to the Amazon page, where you can purchase both the ebook and physical book. I have a copy of the physical book here, and this one is autographed by the author, so this is a treasured tome of mine. You can purchase the text on Amazon, either hardback, paperback, or Kindle, and from there, if you get the Kindle version, you can obviously read it immediately. Download it. If you get the hardback or paperback, it'll take some time to get to you. But I think it'll take us about maybe 3 or 4 weeks to read through the entire text. I know last Sunday I had said I want to spend 1 chapter per study session. But as I've been looking through the text again, the chapters, at least the first 3 chapters, are not that long. There's a lot of information, don't get me wrong, but they're not long lengthwise. So I believe we can read through the first 3 chapters today, make our highlights, take our notes, and be ready for them to be ready to pose them on Sunday. Now, I don't want to go into chapter 4 today, even though we may have time to do so, because like I mentioned earlier, in chapter 4, there are some charts that are introduced, but they are not properly transcribed in the ebook version. So by next week, I will, if I'm not able to find those charts in the diagrams, collection of diagrams I have on my computer, then I will go ahead and recreate those. Now I know it'll be easier to just go to Nehemiah and ask him for an ebook version or for those charts himself, but I think it'd be much more fun and enlightening for myself to, search to the diagrams, find them myself, or if I can't find them, then recreate them. So that'll be part of my little project as we not only go through this text, but the other text as well. After this one, we'll move into the Yogi Ramacharaka teachings, like I mentioned a couple weeks before. We'll move into those starting with the 14 lessons, I believe it's called. but that's after we finish this text. But those Yogi Matraka teachings and the subsequent teachings will be available on the mysticknowledge.org website e-library page, so that everyone can download and read those and have access to them whenever they wish. All right, so that is where you can get the text. Let's go ahead and begin our dive into ancient language of the soul, the mystic knowledge of mantra, the ancient science of manipulating subtle and gross pranas through sound vibration. Start with the author's statement. Is everyone able to see the text clearly, or do I need to close a couple of windows or zoom in? Looks like everyone can see everything, all right? Great. The law of mantra. There is an ancient law of the universe that states no one can pass a mantra on to another person without that mantra living within him or her. A mantra lives within you by chanting the mantra correctly many thousands of times. The exact number differs with each person due to his or her own karmic patterns. This means that one person may chant a particular mantra 2 million times and the mantra lives within them. But another person may only have to chant the same mantra 500,000 times before it begins to live within him or her. It all depends on the state of that person's karmic pattern. To break this law brings tremendous negative karma to the person that breaks the law. Mantra is actually the language of the soul. It is the sound vibrations used by the soul to modify aspects of the Shakti powers into mind substance. This mind substance molds the pranic aspects of Shakti power by creating certain amounts of tension and creating a vibrational spin that holds prana in place. This universal mental tension that holds prana together are patterns of energies that make up various frequencies of energies, creating a vehicle of consciousness that helps the soul limit its awareness through what we call the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the supraconscious mind. The body of limited consciousness, or this body of limited consciousness, produces further vehicles of expression, such as the etheric, astral, and physical bodies that the soul operates through during its many reincarnations here on Earth. This great modifying power of Shakti prana, called mantra, is a sacred power because of its modifying qualities and the effects it has on the chakra system, which represents the different frequencies of man's consciousness. Therefore, without the proper preparation, purification, and conditioning of the body, mind, and etheric structure, the practitioner of mantra cannot properly pass a mantra onto another person without creating a negative wave of karmic impressions on the giver of mantra. The chanting of mantra incites the power of the soul and releases an aspect of the Shakti power, or Chit Shakti, consciousness that is guaranteed to bring results. To give away a mantra without it living within you creates a huge imbalance in your etheric and auric structures that produces the wrong karmic impressions within your auric fields. This sacred power must be conditioned and released through a purified vessel. An adept or master of mantra yoga is a purified vessel because they have conditioned their etheric structures to manifest this great power as the mighty sun and the mother earth do 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. When a master gives a mantra, he passes on a part of his consciousness to the student he gives the mantra to. This is the subtle power exchange that happens between master and student. Okay. That was the author's statement. As you can see, we are beginning full speed ahead right from the start. I will also mention that as we read through this text, actual mantras will not be given out. But at the end of the text, the author describes one of the best methods available to us to obtain an initiation in mantra. We've already said that to you many times, as those who have attended the class, which is the recording available through the Dear Society, but more information is given at the end of the text. All right, let us continue with a brief statement on the AUM. OM consists of 3 letters, A, U, and M. It signifies the 3 periods of time, the 3 states of consciousness, and the entire existence. A is the waking state, or virat and visa. U, or U, is the dreaming state, Ahiran Yagraba, or Tijasa. M is the sleeping state, or the Ishvara and Prajna. The letters of the alphabet are only emanations from OM, which is the root of all sounds and letters. There is no mantra superior to or greater than OM. OM is pronounced ordinarily. OM, as pronounced ordinarily, is an outward gross form of the subtle, inaudible state of sound, which is the amatra, or the immeasurable fourth transcendental state. As the one various devatas are the aspects or forms of the Supreme Being, so is the various bijas, aksharas, or bija or mantra, these OM. Even the letters A, U, and M do not really give the transcendental or original state of sound. Even this trilateral sound is only an expression or manifestation of the highest primal danvi, or the vibration. The transcendental sound of OM is heard only by yogins and not by the ordinary ear. In the correct pronunciation of OM, the sound proceeds from the navel with a deep and harmonious vibration and gradually manifests itself by states at the upper part of the nostrils, where the Anushvara or the Chandrabindu is sounded. Swami Shivananda, Japa Yoga, a comprehensive treatise on Mantra Sastra. Okay, so I think I will highlight all of that, but to save all of you from an entire screen of yellow, we will bookmark both the author's statement and brief statement on the AUM, and any questions, and if you have on that, please take note of them, jot them down, and have them ready for Sunday. There's a lot of information just in those 2 brief statements we just read. Now for the dedication, I dedicate this book to all my metaphysical students and friends that asked me to share this knowledge with a broader audience of metaphysical students. A special thanks goes out to my student, Bernard Johnson, who has studied with me since the early 1990s. Mr. Johnson carefully went through several drafts of this book and was instrumental in bringing this book to the public. I would also like to thank my wife, Robin Oxford Davis, for all the patience and support she gave me while writing this book. I also would like to thank her for all the editing she helped me with on the original manuscripts. Also, a thank you should go out to my sister Lucinda Davis and her two daughters, Janelle and Jenna Gunter, for their painstaking duty to assist me in carefully reading and correcting the final manuscript before publishing this book. I would further like to thank my father, Althea H. Davis Sr., my personal spiritual leader, and my older brother, Althea H. Davis Jr., who's been my protector and spiritual guide through many life lessons and situations. Last but not least, a special thank you to my beloved spiritual master, Dr. Sri Yogiriji George King. Right? And with that, let us move into chapter 1, titled The Keys to Understanding This Book. Let me just take a second to cruise through the text I have here to make sure that's everything. Perfect. Let me make sure this is working properly. Okay, good. Now, how do I remove that? Okay, good. Chapter 1, The Keys to Understanding This Book. I wrote this to pass on some of the sacred knowledge of mantra, not to pass out mantras. It's a book written to bring about a deeper appreciation for the sacred science of mantra, not to initiate anyone into mantra. This book expounds on the origin and power of the mantra used by nature to manifest and sustain all life. The book speaks on the subtle levels of pranic manipulation. Such manipulations of prana that assist consciousness in manifesting itself on cosmic levels, solar levels, and eventually human levels of existence through the power of mantra on all levels of existence. This book gives a brief explanation on how the great celestial beings of the cosmos use the great sacred power of mantra to manifest creation and sustain life throughout the universe. Make that bigger. It speaks of how the mighty sun of the solar system pulls down on the infinite power of Shakti from the absolute and manipulates this all-pervasive power with the sacred power of mantra. This book shows how the soul of man uses the power of mantra as the creative language to manifest man's consciousness through the matrices of the chakra and the nadic system. The soul uses the power of mantra to thrust man's consciousness on several realms of existence, all at the same time. Mantra is an aspect of the Shakti power that expresses consciousness throughout all forms of life as the will of God to manifest evolution from evolution. The keys to understanding this book are laid out in the following paragraphs. The information in this book is based on the ancient tantric yoga principles that states that all life comes from one source called Shiva, the absolute source of all things, which is the supreme being, God. The key to understanding this subject is to realize the four forces at play that governs the ancient theosophical belief system that make up the Tantra Sastra and Mantra Sastra scientific doctrines. These four principles in Sanskrit terminology are called 1. Shiva, or God; 2. Nada, absolute sound vibrations; 3. Shakti, absolute power; and 4. The relationship between them. The following are brief descriptions of these four forces at play within the tantric description of the universe. Shiva is a static form of pure, motionless energy that is full of a pure static state of endless potential. Shiva represents the pure conscious state of the Absolute, the Almighty God. Shiva is the absolute source, the all in all, the superior consciousness of all things, God. Shiva is also the creator of all things and the destroyer of all things as well, for it gives voice as limited consciousness to all things through its Shakti power of involution that is a matrix of Maya Shakti. Illusion of consciousness through various forms and power. Shiva initiates this creative power through the release of the Nada Shakti power, which is a creative sound vibration that molds energy into manifested forms and shapes that are capable of expressing intelligence. Nada is a subtle form of sonic vibrational forces released from the Shiva level of God that brings forward from Shiva an aspect of itself called Shakti. This nada vibrational force is a sonic vibrational wave that pervades, This nada vibrational force is a sonic vibrational wave that pervades all manifested space. Nada is that force that gives Shakti the ability to mold and shape itself into many parts. This energy of nada is a sound vibration that molds the Shakti power. Nada represents the great will of God, expressed throughout the universe as the subtle creative voice of God that sustains the consciousness of all things. This nada power is an aspect of Shakti, and the Shakti power is an aspect of nada power, for one cannot exist without the other. When the Shiva aspect of God spoke the initial word, this word, Nada Shakti, brought about the manifestation of the Shakti power as nada, or the creative sound vibration of the universe. The nada force represents the conscious will of God that holds and sustains all manifested forms and shapes. It is the manifested consciousness of the universe. It is the manifested consciousness of the galaxies. It is the manifested consciousness of the solar system. It is the manifested consciousness of the sun, the planets, the moons, the earth, and all life on the earth. All consciousness is recognized and measured through the expression of the nada force or sound vibration. If I greet a friend or stranger verbally in public, their response back to me verbally indicate to me their state of mind. The analysis of every verbal statement can determine the following: the current mental state of that individual, the current emotional state that person is in, what is the physical state of their human body, the region of the world the person came from, and the level of education and intelligence of that person. The manipulation of sound has placed humankind on a completely new level of awareness through his ability to communicate his thoughts and desires through speech and language. The development of the language of the human race has accelerated their evolution. Language is a sound vibration, which is nada Shakti power. Language is a physical expression of organized thoughts, which is also the power of nada on a mental level. This is an interesting point. I wonder if this also applies to communication on a telepathic level, but we'll hold that question and thoughts like that for Sunday. But keep that in mind, because I think it may be an interesting discussion for us to have. If you think for a moment, you can see this nada power on the full expression of man's consciousness. It is his thoughts or the power behind his mental apparatus. It is the instrument of speech. Therefore, nada is the power that gives Shakti power the ability of intelligent movement. The ancient Eastern teachings see sound vibration, mantras, as the manifestation of consciousness. This conscious state exists on a micro level of existence and on a macro level of existence. They see it as an aspect of the original sound released from the absolute God that brought creation into active manifestation. It is their belief that when the ancient Bibles around the world stated that God spoke the word and the word was God and creation was formed, that this word was a sound vibration that carried the will of God throughout the universe, allowing consciousness to exist on many different planes of existence. They also believe that this sound vibration, mantra, is that force that sets the static, endless potential into constant motion that brought forward the creation of the universe as we know it. They argue the point that all life as we know it has a specific sound associated with it, a sound that is exhibited from all life forms represents levels of intelligence and awareness. This sound within all life is the manifested conscious state of being that expresses itself in the subtle and gross realms of life. This Eastern science of Mantra Sastra knowledge teaches that mental thoughts are subtle soundless vibrations and subtle sound vibrations that manifest themselves as gross audible sound vibrations as expressed will and the desires of man's inner being, which demonstrates consciousness. Well, there's the answer to my original question, earlier question. We all can agree that if humankind had no way of communicating with each other, it would have left him in the dark ages. Being able to share one's thoughts with each other brings a forward movement in humankind's evolution. If we look at the history of humankind, it is obvious that the more effective communication skills man has gained, the more powerful he became and the greater strength he gained over his environment. The science of Mantra Sastra teaches that within the human body is a sound body created by the soul by repeating an aspect of the original word released by God at the start of creation. This body of sound vibrations is the consciousness of man. It is the first layer or body of the soul. The sound body is the background power behind all bodily functions, subtle or gross. This is the meaning behind the Eastern ancient Indian chakra symbols that is represented as Sanskrit letters of various sounds that expresses several levels of the soul's manifested consciousness. Just as the physical body of man has a heart that emits beats that sustain life, the etheric subtle counterpart emits sound vibrations that holds consciousness in manifestation. The heartbeats pump the blood throughout the physical body, carrying oxygen and nutrients to all parts of the body. The pitch, tone, and rhythm of a heartbeat determine the health and state of consciousness of any living being. The subtle sounds of the soul vibrate the will of the soul and spirit throughout the etheric bodies, creating waves of consciousness that bring forth multiple dimensions of consciousness that splits themselves in three distinct groups of the psyche of man, which are the conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the supraconscious mind. It is the belief of the science of holy sound vibrations. In this belief of the science of the holy sound vibrations, they see this sound body of man as consciousness and the soul as the point where it came from, which they describe as bodiless consciousness. They also see the soul as a product of the sound vibrations released from the spirit. They also see the spirit as a divine spark of God that is still connected to the whole and unmanifested in our sense of the manifested world. The spirit never breaks its link with the absolute. It stands as the Shiva aspect to manifested life. It is the only I am you will know, and yet it is not the I am because it is part of the whole that never separated from the absolute. That begs some discussion. It, the spirit or I am, is the only God you will know, but it is not God because it is only a fraction of God. Yet the spirit is the only real you that you will ever know. Shakti. Now, this Shakti power not only possesses this endless potential, but also manifests this endless potential. The Shakti power is the negative counterpart to Shiva. Now, with the nada vibrational wave, the Shakti power places itself in a constant modification as opposed to Shiva, which is in a constant static state of endless potential. The nada force brings form and shape to Shakti. The Shakti power becomes the expression of all life. Nada and Shakti are one and the same source that manifests the Shiva, the Absolute, the Almighty God. The soul is the manifestation of the spoken word by spirit as the body of expression for the spirit. The soul repeated the spoken word and over 100 points of the soul's consciousness expresses itself. These points are concentrated harmonic sonic signals that break themselves up into many vibrational signals that mold and shape the cosmic energies into many parts. The many parts of cosmic energy carved by the sonic vibrations or voice of the soul projected it into several different realms of existence from the most subtle to most gross. Therefore, mantra is the sacred creative language of the spirit and soul. In recitation or japa of any sacred mantra, you activate creative powers that mold and shape the vital cosmic energies that are the essential power of all life. This book explores the sacred science of Mantra Sastra by explaining the mystic knowledge that surrounds the subject. I pray that the peace of God be with you on your journey to acquire the sacred science of Mantra Sastra. All right, and thus completes chapter 1. All right, that was quite a bit. Maybe we won't do 4 chapters today. I think maybe 2 chapters will be good for today. Let me just do a quick time check. Okay. There's quite a lot there. I hope everyone's been reading along and making their highlights as I have. I'm trying to restrain myself from highlighting every single sentence in each chapter, but as you can see, there's quite a lot of information on each page and in each line. But let's press on. Chapter 2, Introduction to the Language of the Soul, the Mystic Knowledge of Mantra. This book is for the metaphysical student that is looking for a greater and deeper appreciation for the subject of mantra. In understanding this very difficult subject, the student can tap into a greater power in his or her practice of this ancient science. I am a metaphysical student, a yogi, and a mystic practitioner for over 35 years. This is practically all of my life. I was given certain holy mantras at the early ages of 3 or 4 and was using it effectively by the ages of 6 and 7. On many occasions, I harnessed the power of mantras during those early years, not really understanding the power of mantra, just knowing that the power of mantra works. As a 6-year-old child, I had long walks home from my elementary school that I was attending at the time, where there happened to be a lot of stray country dogs roaming the neighborhood, terrorizing the young kids, including my first grade classmates and me as we made our way home after school. It was in my first grade class that I realized that if I chanted the mantra silently before passing a group of dogs, or the residences of a dog that would normally terrorize my friends and I, the dog would exhibit a defenseless character as I passed by them. After I encased myself within the power of mantra, the dogs did not rush us, and in some cases they barely barked. If the dogs would bark, they barked from afar with a frightened expression. As a young child, I had no idea the mantra was going to make the dogs flee from me in such a manner, but I did know that it would protect me. I believed that mantra were sacred names of God with tremendous power connected to it when pronounced properly. And this power had been demonstrated to me many times. When I was a teenager, I had an opportunity to witness my father chant a mantra with feeling and great devotion. My father was a deeply spiritual mystic practitioner. He came from a 3rd generation of mystics from the Cat Islands, Bahamas. By my teenage years, I had witnessed him and several other people I knew use the power of mantra to heal people. I witnessed the power of mantra to bring about clouds from a clear sky and produce rainfall. And I witnessed stormy clouds and tornadoes disappear from the sky above with the power of simple mantras produced and manipulated properly. But with all this, I never saw and felt the devotion I was about to feel that day. My father had called me to him. I was taking a break from my japa practice. My heart was set on chanting the mantra until it lived within me. Therefore, I could possess the power of mantra at will, as I had witnessed over the past years to that date. When my father had called me to him, I had already spent nearly a day in chanting mantra. I know that he knew of my great quest for the power of mantra. It had to be pulsating off my aura like a huge spotlight. During my chanting, japa of the mantra, I had many visions and felt the tremendous power of the mantra. The zeal that I had was overwhelming. I just knew that I was on the brink of grasping onto mantra power that I could only dream of. All of these thoughts ran through my mind as I walked toward my father. Whatever he had to tell me, I wanted him to hurry up because I needed to get back to my chanting of the mantra. When I reached my father, he said to me, "When you chant the mantra, you need to chant it with feeling and great devotion." Then he sat up in his chair, allowing his spine to become erect, and chanted the mantra several times to demonstrate to me the reverence and feeling needed when chanting the mantra. He chanted the mantra, and the whole of the room filled up with the presence. I looked at my father, and he seemed to light up. I glanced at his arms, and thrill bumps covered them. All the tiny hairs on his arms stood straight up. The words of the mantra rolled off his tongue like beautiful music. I could feel a power like I never felt before. The mantra was alive. The whole room had changed, and a great presence had entered the room at the chanting of the mantra. This power that I was witnessing was different from any other power I had witnessed of mantra. At this moment, I realized that the mantra power that I was chasing was nothing in comparison to what I was experiencing there. The power of the mantra and my father had seemed to merge as one. The presence that I had felt in the room was the power of the mantra that showed itself through my father. Later, I learned that the keys to unlocking the tremendous power of the mantra was through constant practice of japa with great devotion. Through this, the devotee finds the key to pull the plug that separates the lower conscious mind from the ability to merge with the devata, an aspect of the soul's consciousness. In japa practice, recitation of mantra, there are 6 components to it: guru, meter, devata, bija, Shakti, Kilaka. We will go over these 6 parts of this practice later. One of the 6 parts is called the Kilaka. That stands for the pin or plug that needs to be pulled or removed to allow the power of the mantra to manifest itself as the devata, or the higher consciousness of man, which is an aspect of the soul's consciousness. In this book, I hope to convey how important mantra is, how it represents the consciousness of the universe, or may I say, the conscious will of God, the Absolute. I want to show where mantra comes from, and that it is the first spoken word that brought about creation as we know it. Therefore, mantra is a sound vibration that carries the expressed thought configurations that aligns mind and cosmic energies of the universe. This book will attempt to show how this all-pervasive sound vibration mantra, carries the conscious will of God, which is the thought configurations of that expressed will by freeing or activating the static force of universal mind substance and cosmic energies. This mantra, sound vibration, also has a protection force over this endless potential of activated universal mind substance and cosmic energies. This can be seen in the meaning of the Sanskrit word mantra. The word mantra has two Sanskrit words. The root word man, which means to think, and the suffix of the word tra, which means to free and protect. Mantra is an aspect of the universal consciousness of creation. These bodies of sound, sabda, waves, act as the creative force throughout all creation. They form and shape the cosmic energies, Shakti, of the universe. The Tantric philosophy tells us that Shiva, the highest aspect of God, the all in all, released a sound vibration that brought forward an aspect of itself called Shakti. This Shakti is the aspect of Shiva that uses the Vak, the first spoken word, to move itself into active manifestation. This first sound vibration, Vak, is described as para sound, a supreme sound that is a differentiation force, which is a united Shakti force of one consciousness, which moves forward into a Shakti force of many parts before actual manifestation. This Shakti power, armed with the sound sabda body to move, created forms and shapes that govern this massive body of energies within Shakti, the principles of creation. These principles are described as the following: Shakti as mind, a universal or infinite mind of consciousness. 2, Shakti as prana, an all-pervasive vital life force. Number 3, Shakti as jnana, knowledge. And number 4, Shakti as ananda, a spiritual bliss. Excuse me. These 4 principles exist as one thriving Shakti force of creation with different levels of sonic frequency waves operating as one with tremendous pressures to bring about controlled creation. The mind principle is the wave of consciousness. The prana is an all-pervasive cosmic energy that acts as the vital life force for the creative wave. The jnana is the aspect of the wave that holds the supreme knowledge in place during the active state of Shakti. The last principle is the Shakti wave of Ananda, which represents a wave of consciousness that is the Brahmic bliss that holds the knowledge of the all in all, the one life, the great liberation of truth. This Ananda principle also expresses love energy that acts as a preservation force, which preserves creation in its involution and evolutionary activity. I want to highlight this whole thing, but I'll straight that. These footnotes will wait till the end of the chapter to jump to the end notes and define and read those. The Shakti principles move forward and create 5 distinct sound vibrations that wrap themselves in the Shakti powers, which are the all-pervasive elements of the universe, which are the Mahabhutas. The Mahabhutas are subtle universal cosmic energies or Shakti power that expresses those infinite universal subtle elements, which are described as follows. 1. Akasa, which is etheric sound and have the quality of space, throws the pranas into a form that gives room for space, which opens the door for the second aspect of prana. Vayu. This expression gives accelerated speed to the pranas. With the start of the second prana, Vayu, this cosmic etheric substance is thrown into the form of tiny spheres and formation of spheres that exhibits accelerated speed. 3. Tejas. Tejas has a duty of giving the pranas the ability of expansion. It carries the quality of fire and color, which gives great strength to the involutionary process, or the solidification process. 4. Apas. Apas comes into play with the properties of contraction being given to the pranas. This brings the resistance factor into play. And Prithivi. Prithivi brings about the power to cover up space, solidifies, with its natural desire toward gross matter. These Mahabhutas are what the Shakti principles use for the building blocks of creation. Later in the book, I will go deeper in explaining the Shakti power, pranas, and sabda, sound bodies, it works through. The Shakti principles are like the supreme Mahabindus, which is a massive point of concentrated Shakti and Nada sources of power. This wave of Nada or Sabda forces projects itself from the Shakti principles as pure consciousness embodied in the Mahabhutas, creating the subtle universe that the physical universe is built upon. The all-pervasive Shiva force that all things come from and is built upon throughout the universe is the invisible and unmanifested power background that the Shakti forces emerge itself from and merge with these Shiva forces of endless potential that as elevated points of manifested consciousness throughout the universe as Bindus. This is where Nada forces are perpetuated in these massive points of concentrated Shakti and Nada sources, the Bindus, of power that are seen as galaxies, central suns, the solar systems, countless planets and moons. The celestial beings are concentrated, pulsating centers of Shakti and Nada forces that extend life in countless ways, forms, and shapes. These are the Mahabindu centers, which are like psychic centers of the universe, galaxies, and solar systems. They represent the consciousness that stands behind all life and is all life. These mighty beings extend their consciousness, Sabda and Nada forces, and Shakti power to manufacture involved or lower bodies so that parts of their consciousness can gain valuable experiences through these various life expressions. Over the years, I have learned the deeper importance of the power of mantra and the significance it plays in our lives. I will try my best to convey this information in this book. I will try to show that mantra is much more than a set of words that is chanted in holy circles by mystic aspirants. Mantra can be described on several different levels. A cosmic level that describes its origin, a casual level of mantra and universal presence of the mantra that expands throughout the universe, galaxies, and solar systems. The solar level of mantra, which is the sound vibrations that constantly radiate from the sun, solar logos, forming and shaping the cosmic energies and universal mind substance into vehicles of expressions within the solar plasmic fields of the solar system. The planetary level of mantra is the sound that each planet releases back into the solar plasmic field as its inhabitants. The human level of mantra is the sound vibrations that the soul uses to configure all its vehicles of expression, such as the etheric bodies, the several vehicles of consciousness, the subtle bodies, the astral bodies, and physical body. It uses these vehicles to bring about human involution that spring into the evolution toward its original source through revolutions of many cycles. I have laid out a very specific table of contents on this subject and have tried to make it very simple, leaving out the rather complex Sanskrit names where it is possible without losing meaning or substance of the subject. This book will show the ancient significance of mantra and its power that's connected to it from the highest celestial level to the microcosmic level of the cosmic energies that radiate through man's psychic centers, chakras, and the pathways of his nadis. The following paragraphs will give a brief description of the contents that I will use to explain the power of mantra. Mantra can be described briefly with several major categories, which can shed light on this subject without losing the deep importance of this most sacred ancient science. In this book, we will try to dig deep into the mechanics of this ancient science of mantra, unlocking the power of mantra and tracing the power signatures within this universe filled with the sonic vibrations of the one creative mantra that contains all mantras. The following are the several major categories that we will review in order to obtain a clear understanding of the science of mantra. Number one, in the ancient Oriental doctrines, it is said that the absolute God released a sound vibration described as the word vak in Sanskrit terminology, which means the first spoken word. This sound vibration brought the static sea of endless potential of universal mind substance and the all-pervasive vital life force, prana, out of a motionless state of being. This first sound vibration is the conscious will of the absolute or God. Therefore, sound vibration can be considered the conscious configuration of all forms and shapes. Number two, this stillness of endless potential and activation of the all-pervasive cosmic energy can be described as Shiva, Shakti, and Nada or Sabda. The great positive force that contains all the absolute forces is the Shiva force. The great negative active force acts as the creative force in manifestation is known as the Shakti power, and the Nada or Sabda, the great all-pervasive sonic vibration that acts as a neutral force that outlines the life signatures of all manifested creation, which is the greatest or great mantra. Number three, mantra is the sonic vibration that was released from the absolute at the beginning of creation that placed the static sea of mind and prana substance into motion. When we break the Sanskrit word mantra into its two parts, man and tra, we find that the word man means to think and the word tra means to protect and free. Therefore, mantra can be seen to mean that one can be freed from the thoughts and protected from thoughts or vice versa. Number 4, on a universal level, this sonic vibration called mantra frees the universal thought configurations that brings about activities of the Shakti power. It also protects the balance of this creative power throughout the fabric of creation by sustaining this perpetuated emotion of the Shakti power. Number 5, mantra is a sonic vibration that permeates its vibrations throughout the universe, helping to maintain the creative force in manifestation. This sound vibration is the underlying modes of motion that keep all life in place by keeping the Shakti power in constant vibration. 6, mantra is the creative signatures of the universe. This sonic vibration is the glue that holds the mind substance and pranic energy patterns together. It is said that the great sound vibration places the all-pervasive mind substance and prana into motion. The sound gives mind substance form and shape, which holds prana together, and the prana gives the forms and shapes constant motion. Number 7, mantra is a calibrating tool for the great cosmic energies, prana, and the universe and the all-pervasive mind substance. It is the conscious will of the Supreme Being that synchronizes all creative forces. 8, the great sound vibration, mantra, is a tool that is used by the celestial bodies of the universe, such as the galaxies, solar systems, suns, planets, and moons of the planets. The celestial bodies use sound vibrations to modify the thousands of components of mind substance and cosmic energies, which produces countless forms and shapes of varying degrees of etheric, subtler, astral, and gross matter. Number 9, it is the synchronization of sound that holds the consciousness of man within the physical, astral, mental, and etheric vehicles of expression. The chakra system is described as a series of sounds in motion that gives expression to various levels of consciousness that expresses itself on various realms of existence. When man learns to control all 4 aspects of sound, he will be able to consciously move the essence of all Kundalini power, the Shakti consciousness that gives consciousness to all the bodies of expression up through Sushumna. In doing this, he will begin to operate from the soul level of expression. The above description of mantra lays out the major categories and functions that mantra plays within the scheme of things. A lot more could be stated on this subject, but we will address and stick to the 9 categories in order to explore this subject in a manner that allows us to pull out necessary information on this very difficult subject. Right. Thus completes chapter 2. Everybody, I believe we will stop there for reading. We will pick up on chapter 3 next time, the essence of mantra. The 9 points describing the science of mantra. I do want to go into further discussion of those points on Sunday. So do take notes and prepare your bullet points and questions so that we can have an in-depth discussion. Please go back through chapters 1 and 2, as well as the author's statement and the brief statement on the AUM. I did make some highlights, but as you notice, I stopped highlighting as we got into chapter 2 because I would just highlight the entire text. So I will go back and make some more notes for all of you. Your homework as well is to go back and make some notes if you weren't doing so as you're reading along, and prepare them for further discussion on Sunday. I thank you for attending this very first study session and our introductory text, Ancient Language of the Soul, which is actually more of a textbook on the subject of mantra than a cursory read or study. I hope all of you are enjoying it so far, and I look forward to everyone continuing their participation in these study sessions, reading along and growing further in our knowledge of the ancient wisdoms and teachings. So before I close out, are there any questions or comments or concerns? As a reminder, you can pick up a copy of this text via Amazon. If you go to the mysticknowledge.org website, there's a link there called New Book Sale. You can click on that link, get a lot of information on the text, as well as pick up a copy on Amazon, or you can even go to the publisher's website. I went there as well, and I found there are copies there that they have in stock. So just in case Amazon runs out of stock with the physical text, you can purchase the ebook or Kindle version, which is what I'm reading from. You can also purchase an ebook version from the publisher as well. And as you can see there, for an autographed copy like this one, you can send us an email. I don't know if this PO box is still active for Nehemiah, but you can send us an email at mystickknowledgecenter@gmail.com. And if you'd like to request an autographed copy of the text, you can do that, and we'll send you instructions on how to acquire one for yourself. Thank you very much, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday for our open discussion in various topics, as well as seeing you next week, Friday, as we continue with chapters 3 and 4 of the Ancient Language of the Soul. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend.